Hey everybody, Alex from SCADA Forge here. In this video we're going to take a look at the power chart component in perspective for viewing historical data. So first let's create a new view under our perspective views. Call it power chart. Make the window a little bigger. We will go to perspective components, to the chart header, and power chart, and we'll click and drag that over. Now this comes across as a component. You'll see some additional buttons and options within this compared to the easy chart in Vision. We'll also see a bunch of different properties for pen, start and end date, responsive design, visibility, what we can do to export data from this, zoom levels, plots and pens, and various metadata things as well. So the main difference between the Vision Easy Chart and the Power Chart is we don't really have all the configuration options on this component like we do on the Easy Chart. Not to fret, we can go to play mode, and this has a built-in tag browser within it, so we can click that. We can expand down to, let's say we want to look at our compressor 1 tags. We can select what tags we want to do, and then we can add selected tags here on the button on the bottom, and that will pull all of these values across directly to the chart here. And then we can hide the tag browser, and down here at the bottom it gives us a list of all of our tags. You'll see the check mark here, what color they are, and then if we scroll up we'll see a current value, the minimum, max, average values, and what axis and plot it is on here. And then we don't have right click on this. Our right click's a little harder in web browsers, but we do have a button here. This gives us pan and zoom, so if we want to pan and zoom this, we can click on it. We can choose X trace here, and we can hover over this to see the values at a particular point in time. We just added more tags to history here where you see the data for more pens start to collect, but we had this tag previously, so we'll see all the values of what are on the chart here. This doesn't sort them by the value, it just sorts them by what order they're on down here. We can also do a range brush if we want to get some different information for averages and things, and minimum and maximum values based on a range. And we can delete that if we want. We can also do annotation. So if we want to click and say annotate a value, we can put in notes about that we can then view. We can also go to settings here once we're in play mode, and this brings up the configuration options similar to what we would see in the Easy Chart in Vision. Here's our pens. We can go through and edit those. Very similar to what you see on the Easy Chart. Set colors, styles, see a preview, look at our tag path, and what plot it's on. We can go to done. We can do multiple plots, so if we want to add, say, plot number 2, we hit add, or I guess plot number 1, it starts at 0. Then if we want to edit our tags, we can put those on plot number 1. Let's do 2 of them just for examples. And close that. So now we have 2 plots with some tags here on the top, some on the bottom. You'll see down here which plot we're on down here in the tag list. If we want to hide a tag, we simply uncheck it down here. And if we want to remove a tag, you would just hit delete pen, and delete, and that will take it off. And we can re-add that if we want, and select which plot to add it to, and that adds it back down to the bottom there. Okay, so we can also go in and add an axis. We can position it on the right of our view, and let's, instead of auto range, let's scale it from 50 to 200. We'll click add, and then we can go to our pens, and we can pick our axis here. So let's say we want motor amps on axis 1 and average power usage on axis 1. We can close that, and we'll see our extra axis here on the right. So if we had, say, a value that was scaled from 0 to 1,000 on the left and a value scaled from 0 to 100, we can put that on the right so you can get a little bit more granular data as to what you're looking at there. And then we can also export this data that gives us a CSV file that we could import to Excel. We can print, and then we can clear X traces if we want to get those off of there. And then also go to pan and zoom. So that's the basic functionality of the Easy Chart. And then if we go into a little drop down here, we can go real time, say look at the last hour, or we could go to historical, and we can put in a start and end time that we want to look at. And then down here on the bottom, that'll show us where we have data during that time period. And if we wanted to, say, adjust that to a smaller amount of time, we can do that here using this little slider. So that's the basic power chart component. That's pretty powerful, a little bit different than what you're familiar with Vision, if you've seen that video, but just as powerful, and kind of saves you a bit of work by allowing the users to pre-select their tags here. And then if you want to save this, you could do some scripting to save custom user power charts. The other option that we have is if you go to the Ignition Exchange, we have the Vision pulled up here. We will pull up Perspective Ad Hoc. You'll see a Ad Hoc Trends component for Perspective. And we already imported that into the project, so we can go here to Ad Hoc Trends. We can open this window here. And this gives you basically the power chart component down here at the bottom with some main top controls and mobile bottom controls that will be made available, and those are up here. So we go to play mode. We'll see that we can configure what database we're looking at. We can load data from a database, save data to a database, and then this will allow us to load and save trend charts automatically through here without doing any additional scripting using the save and load buttons. And then we can set a real-time refresh rate, go into pause mode, or we can give this a title so we can get a little more flexibility if we're trying to export this to a file. Otherwise, it gives you the same base level power chart component here as you see in the tree on the left. So if we were to come down to compressor 1 and add those, you'll see those show up here just like we saw on the power chart example. And then this minimizes the table down here, giving us pen control. So here we can check and uncheck things. And then if we hit expand here, that'll give us the table that we saw on the power chart, where we can collapse that and get basically just a legend of what's on there. So it gives you a good run through everything in the power chart component in Perspective, which is really beneficial for looking at historical and or real-time data in Ignition. Thank you for watching.